Hello, everyone. I'm Brian Reynolds, the Chancellor with the Archdiocese of Louisville. Welcome to our podcast series, What's New in ArchLou. This show highlights the people and ministries of the Archdiocese of Louisville, the Catholic Church in Central Kentucky. Join us each month as we welcome guests to discuss our local church and invite you to get more involved as you deepen your engagement with your Catholic faith. This program is brought to you by the ArchLou Podcast Network. Well, folks, we have another great show ahead of you today. We made it to September, and September, when I was growing up, automatically meant school. Sometimes it's August now around here, but anyway, September always meant schools, had different symbols. And when it was, Christmas shows a snowman or a manger scene, and Thanksgiving shows a turkey. But September is always paper and pencils. It's school season. So we have two guests from the Office of Catholic Schools with us today. Amy Nall is our new Superintendent of Catholic Schools, and Dr. Trevor Timmerberg is the new Assistant Superintendent of Catholic Schools. Both of them began their roles in July. They're still here in September. We take this as a good point, and we'll tell you a little bit about them, and then they'll get a chance to tell you a little more. Amy began teaching in the Archdiocese in 1988 at Holy Rosary Academy. She also taught at Mercy Academy and Sacred Heart Academy, becoming an assistant principal and later the interim principal of Sacred Heart. In 2021, she joined the Office of Catholic Schools as assistant superintendent. She's been married for 38 years and has 3 adult children and 2 grandchildren, with one more on the way, which is her favorite topic to talk about. Okay, now Trevor started his career nearly 5 years in the public school system, and since then he served at Trinity High School as an assistant principal and an English teacher, and most recently he was principal of St. Mary's Academy. Really interesting fact about Trevor, he was a former commissioned officer in the U.S. Army National Guard. He and his wife have 1 daughter. So welcome to both of you here today.
Thank you.
Glad you could be here. Yeah. In addition to what I've said, that's your official biography. Tell us a little bit more about yourselves. Amy, you start us out. Tell us, what else can you tell us about Amy?
I think what I would want to tell you about me really is about my parents, because I think I am who I am because of my parents. I'm the youngest. I always try to put that in. I'm the youngest of 7 children, and I just grew up in a faith-filled home where our church and our school were really our community, and those values of faith and family and education were really born from my parents, and I think that's where my passion is for Catholic education started from my parents. So all that they sacrificed to get me my start.
Rooted in parents and family. Very good.
Absolutely.
Trevor, how about you? What else can you tell us besides the bio?
Yeah, I think a common theme throughout my life is I'm just surrounded by much better people than myself. So at home, my wonderful wife, Danielle, she's also a Catholic school teacher. She's been in the elementary, now she's in the high school. Catholic schools within the Archdiocese. She's pursuing her PhD. I consider her a world changer. She has a phrase that I love saying and stealing it every time, even though I give her credit, which is, I don't have to be the next president, but I would love to teach the next president.
That's great.
And so I think that pretty much captures who she is and what she's trying to accomplish with the gifts that God's given her. And together, as you said earlier, we have this beautiful baby girl named Gwen, and she's the spitting image of my wife, both brain and attitude and everything. And, we just get to fall in love with her each and every day. And then I think ultimately the reason why I'm in Catholic education is that faith, service, and learning, that Office of Catholic Schools mission is, God's put that call in my heart, and I love to be a part of that and be a part of the team with Amy and the rest of our crew at the Archdiocese.
Well, we are blessed to have both of you serving, overseeing our Catholic schools, which is a lot of activities these days, lots of things for lots of young people and teachers and all sorts of activities that go on. But let's talk about some of those things. I'm going to start. Amy, I know that every year there's a theme for Catholic schools we pick, and our theme for this year ties to the Jubilee year that was called by Pope Francis a few months before he passed away. Tell us more about the theme for Catholic schools for 25, 26.
Yeah. So our theme is, as you said, inspired by our Jubilee Year of Hope that started in January of 2025. Our theme is Pilgrims of Hope, journeying together in faith, service, and learning. So what we did, we were inspired by the Jubilee year, and the word hope just certainly captures everything about education. Every day through formation and education, that is where hope is. It's the hope of all the possibilities for our children and young adults going into the future. Journeying together in faith, service, and learning, that's a part of our mission statement. So last year, the Office of Catholic Schools worked all year to revise our Catholic Schools mission and vision statement. And so we pulled those three words, faith, service, and learning. Faith is the foundation. Service is what we would say the expression of our faith. And then learning is how it's sustained, how we continue, and where that hope really lies in the learning in the classroom.
Hope is such an interesting word, because a lot of people talk about the struggles of these days, and hope is kind of the a lasso that pulls us back to our core, I think, sometimes.
I think you're exactly right. And if you lose hope, hope is believing in the invisible when it's not visible, but it will become visible, as Trevor was saying about his wife saying, I don't need to be the next president, but I want to teach the next president. That's hope.
Yeah,
and that's what our teachers do each and every day in the classroom.
Eye in the future. Now, unfortunately, we came to the end of last month in August and had that very difficult day where we all heard the news of the shooting in a Catholic school up in Minnesota. So I want to talk a little bit about school safety. It's on every parent's mind. It's on everybody's mind. It doesn't seem that we go very long during any school year that some horrific act like that happens. I think one of the unique realities this year that this was a Catholic school, so we feel connected to them in a special way because of the Catholic identity of that school. So tell us, Amy, this could be a whole topic of a show, but just a little bit of information. How does the Archdiocese of Louisville Catholic Schools approach safety?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, and of course our hearts go out to the Annunciation community and all of those families and the leaders and the teachers, so horrific, and we keep them in our prayers. We are committed to, just as Annunciation is, we're all committed to the safety of our students. That is first and foremost, the care of the children. How we approach that in the Archdiocese is through a strong partnership with the Kentucky Center for School Safety. So we have an excellent partnership, and all of their resources are available to us, even though we're in the non-public sector, and that's a public organization. They know and train us on best practices in school safety each and every year. So, for example, this summer I did a 3-hour training with the Kentucky Center for School Safety. And then one of our partners, Dan Orman, actually has come out. He's met with Trevor and me. We have another call this week. So they provide us with best practices that then we share with our schools to ensure that all best practices are followed for safety. So our schools, using the template that's provided by the Kentucky Center for School Safety, put together a school emergency plan. And all of the schools update that annually as we update training and information. And those are shared with us. Of course, they're shared with their team, but they're also shared with us so that we can be assured that safety is first.
I know that the local law enforcement professionals have copies of our school plans, our building, how they. So we rely on the outside world, but to keep people comfortable inside, and so it's a safe environment is really important.
It is, and what we would say, and what our friends at Kentucky Center for School Safety would say, three pillars to safety. One would be relationships. And of course, that's the foundation of everything we do in Catholic schools. But we really need to know our students. We need to know their families. We need to know each other. So first and foremost, strong relationships. Secondly would be lock the doors. That seems pretty simple, but can sometimes not be as simple as it is. So locking the doors. And then the third is just being vigilant, keeping our eyes open and being aware of our surroundings. So,
thank you for the leadership you bring to that very difficult topic and very painful situation. Yeah. And our prayers continue to be with all those who deal with that kind of violence, especially when it involves children.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Trevor, let's go a little bit different direction now with you. If you can help me, you have the unique situation of having served both elementary and high schools, and now in the superintendent's office. You mentioned it a little bit ago, but tell us more about how this became your field. Why this, as opposed to rocket scientist, or because I know I'm going to ask you in a few minutes about your sports background, but let's start about education first.
Yeah, no, it's a great question, Brian, and I appreciate it because if you would have asked me when I was in my formative years in middle school and high school, I would not have told you education would have been the path for me. And quite honestly, I really just feel like it was God's calling on my life, and I couldn't deny the fact that that's where he was calling me towards. And I didn't know what that looked like, and I really didn't know how that was going to manifest or to be in the fortunate blessing that I'm in now with the team, working under Amy's leadership. So I feel truly blessed to be in this role. But I found when I was in the public school setting that I loved what I did. I loved working with the students, the other peers, but I could no longer dissociate my faith in my occupation. And when I had the opportunity to go to Trinity High School and blend the two things that are fundamental to who I am, which is most importantly my faith, but then also the expression of that through the vocation of developing young students into the leaders, to the students, to the scholars, and most importantly to the disciples that we are called to be, was just this perfect blend of both things. It was kind of like the crescendo moment, and I've just seen God's fingerprints on that throughout the entire time of being in education, specifically Catholic education, and getting to invest in those students that are going to be the world leaders that we know them to be.
That's a wonderful vision. Catholic identity is a topic that comes up a lot when we talk at our schools. What do we mean by Catholic identity? I want to ask you about that. And you used a word already, which is discipleship. Catholic identity for our schools is really about not just forming students, but forming disciples, as you said. Talk to us a little bit about how our schools emphasize Catholic identity.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's fundamental to who we are, as I was saying before, and I really got the concept of discipleship through my pastor at St. Mary, which was St. Bernadette Church, which was Father Jeff Nicholas. When I was asking him during one of our meetings, and I was like, how do we prioritize the priorities here? And he would say, discipleship. And I would say to our teachers that we're in the discipleship business. That's what we are called to do. And I've heard Amy share with so many of our leaders throughout a variety of different circumstances that everyone is a religion teacher. That doesn't mean everyone's teaching religion curriculum in their classrooms while they should be doing math or English or whatever it may be. But we're all called to be that witness, to model our faith, our Christian faith, our Catholic values, both inside the school, outside the school, and everywhere in between. And we get to have that opportunity. I think that's a really unique aspect to who we are within the Archdiocese and Catholic education, is that we get to mix faith and academics all in one, and we get to support our students as disciples, meaning just like Jesus had his 12 disciples and sent them out, and they were a ragtag group, and sometimes I really resonate with that. But he doesn't always call the qualified, but he qualifies the called, and I think that's who we try to emulate, and the vision we try to enact in our schools.
Very good. You know, the work of Catholic education doesn't happen without the educators. So let's talk a little bit about our teachers.
Yeah.
You two have spent your career as a teacher. I spent a brief time as a teacher, and my wife has spent more than 30 years teaching as well. So teaching kind of runs around this little conversation today. Talk to me, Amy, if we can, about one of the things that many people don't know is underway in the Archdiocese. For a number of years, we've had a partnership with the University of Notre Dame. And over these years, we've had teachers who serve in our schools through what's called the Notre Dame ACE program. We now have 5 principals in the Principal Academy also through Notre Dame. So interesting programs with Notre Dame. Let's talk about each of them a little bit. First, what's the ACE teachers? What's that about?
Yeah. Well, let me say it's even broader, and we've had, so if you don't mind my saying, it's even broader. So ACE stands for Alliance for Catholic Education, And that is a whole institute for school initiatives to support Catholic education out of the University of Notre Dame. So the first one that you mentioned was that we currently have 5 leaders, 5 principals throughout our archdiocese who are in the ACE Principal Academy. They're called the Cabrini Fellows. And so they're receiving, it's a 2-year program where they're getting mentorship, they're getting coaching, professional learning, and professional networking to build their capacity to be Catholic school leaders. So it absolutely adds that spiritual leadership to the instructional leadership. We have 5 ACE Teaching Fellows, and that's a Master's of Arts in Teaching program. So it's a master's level program through the University of Notre Dame where they place students in dioceses across the country who will serve as the classroom teachers. So they're earning their master's in education while they're actually teaching. So we have 5 of those currently. They have a program, the REMIC program, which is a program for aspiring leaders. So I know of several in our diocese who have gone through the REMIC program to get their principal credentials. They have the Hernandez Fellows. The Hernandez initiative is to support leaders and faculty who want to learn more about serving the Hispanic community and how to better engage and support our Hispanic community. And then the Latino Institute for Enrollment is another program that we've had several who have participated in that help, again, work with not only recruiting, but, really supporting the Latino community. So Notre Dame is rich in its commitment to supporting Catholic schools, and we, to the best of our ability to engage with Notre Dame, we want to.
Sounds like you're taking advantage of many of their services.
We are.
That's great. So
absolutely.
That's wonderful. Very good. Now, so teachers, this happens every few years. There seems to be a shortage of teachers, and that's true for us too. And these men and women give their lives to education, but there never seems to be enough of them for all the needs that there are out there. Trevor, what do you say to someone? You mentioned about yourself. The young Trevor wouldn't have done this. What do you say to someone who says, "I'm thinking about it," who's considering teaching as a profession? What do you say to them?
Yeah, I would steal the Catholic Education Foundation line of just say yes.
Okay, good.
And I say that because I think when we commit, when we're obedient in the calling or the prompting maybe of the Spirit through our occupation or becoming our vocation, is that teaching is one of the greatest jobs in the world. No other job exists without teachers, because first, students have to go through school before they go take on the world. Back to the quote that I shared earlier about my wife. And I just think the opportunity we have to have a transformational impact in our students' lives, we are stewards of that gift. And so while we're there on purpose and to help support our students, I think God works through us in that same way, and He transforms our lives by shaping us and molding us through the process of serving one another. And, we talk about servant leadership all the time in our office. Amy talks about it and leads with that example, and I think that's a Christ-like example. I've heard someone say before, you don't have to say servant leadership, it's just called leadership. And I think Christ embodies that for us, and then through giving that back in your classroom, you get to experience the full joy and fulfillment that of what it takes to shape a community around our faith.
But Amy, you're asking someone to spend hours and hours with 7th graders. I picked on just one grade, and you could say that about little young ones,
that's right,
or older ones too.
Where your gift is.
What's inside you when you say, "Oh yes, come do this"? You have openings, of course you want to fill them, but why? How do you get someone motivated to spend their life in education?
Yeah. That's a great question. I think Trevor certainly answered it well. It really is a calling, and so I think it's an invitation to that starts when they're young. How are we tapping our young people to say, you would make an excellent teacher? Go back to your discipleship, and that how we're hopefully building our children, helping them grow as disciples. Well, that calling to education to Catholic education is certainly a part of that. It is a vocation, but that might need to be tapped early on. So I think, one thing I would say is I would really encourage our school leaders, our school teachers, to tap people who would be excellent teachers. Sometimes people don't even see that in themselves. And then I would also say that teaching is transformative for the teacher as well as for the student, and the gift that you're able to give, you get back tenfold.
Sure. So, okay. Well, I talked about one of the stressors, depending on what age you're teaching, but what do you think sustains a teacher? What keeps them in this? Because it's one thing to start out. I do know some of the data tells us that one of the largest exits from teaching is just after their first few years.
Yeah, first 5 years.
Yeah, how do we sustain it? Trevor, you want to help us?
It's tough.
Yeah, I think it comes down to really two areas. It's witnessing the growth of our students, but I think equally as important is finding that fellowship and connection with your peers. I think something very... not being from Louisville as a native growing up here, getting to see the rich Catholic community that we have of tradition and faith really binds us together. And I have the good fortune through this office to work with leaders at different schools. And I was listening to some of our secondary assistant principals this morning, and they were talking about, but we can always find a way to make it work. And I think AP's assistant principals are unique in that. And I think that, transcends down into the classroom of, they figure it out and they find a way to promote that academic excellence, but also that Catholic identity, just in step with one another, running parallel to support our students. But that's what sustains us too, is getting to see the manifestation of that good work in what we're doing.
And if I could
Please
add, I think what you said really captured it, is the community. Not everyone is as blessed to be able to work in a community that fosters your own faith and that builds the connection with your colleagues, as you were saying, that's really founded in our faith. And I think that sustains. And I think, as you said, the research says in the first 5 years is when we lose, I think, 50% of the population. Don't quote me on that, but it is a large number of people who go into education who leave in those first 5 years, because it is hard work. As you said, it is very hard work. But feeling that you are making a difference and that what you do has purpose and matters is absolutely something that sustains, and through that community that's created in a Catholic school.
Can I ask you a little personal? What has sustained you since 1988?
Oh gosh, yeah, that's a long time. It is the hope. I think of our theme, Pilgrims of Hope. It is the hope. It is knowing that what you're doing lasts beyond a lifetime. It will last beyond my lifetime. I think of all the people who have had an impact on my life who are since not here, but their vision, their faith, their commitment still lives in me, that I can share that forward, that pay it forward kind of idea.
Yeah.
And I think that what sustains me is knowing that I can make a difference well beyond the now. If you're just in it for the now, that might make a day pretty tough. But if you have the hope that what you're doing will have impact forever, then that's what sustains it.
Very good. Listen, we've talked about leaders, and we've talked about teachers. I'll talk about kids before we get our show going. What's going on with children today? What's going on with our students today?
Well, we love our students today.
Okay.
But I think our students are, in a lot of ways, more challenged than they've ever been. So some things about childhood never change. There are some things that last forever and have always been, but I'm going to point to technology and say that I feel like that has definitely been a game changer both for parents and for students in some positive ways. I think our students are more creative. I think they have new and different ways to express themselves and be engaged in their education. But I think the technology also creates maybe a faster pace, a different rhythm to family life, less downtime than maybe we used to have, that healthy boredom that we think about. I think it also builds pressure on a student, the comparisons, social media, being able to see what everybody else is doing, maybe some unnecessary stress and comparison. And then developmentally, I think our children are exposed to things that aren't developmentally appropriate because technology has made the world available at our fingertips.
Trevor, as a young parent, what are you seeing as you look to your child's growing up in schools? Amy's a grandparent. We're going to talk about that too. But talk about as a parent, how do you see that?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I share Amy's sense of hope for the future, but I also think it's different and it's shaped differently, so we have to navigate it appropriately. Some of the conversations that we have in our office around this same topic is this intensity of urgency. Sooner and sooner, we're seeing students experiencing things that we, as older people, experience years after they would have. So we're looking at schedules with athletics, extracurriculars, different social obligations, both family and also just the students as well. You're looking at students that AP classes used to be reserved for seniors in high school. Now you have kids that are coming in and taking them as a freshman. I think there's a ton of upside to all those aspects, but it creates this sense of urgency that tends to amplify and can feel weighty and overwhelming. And we see that in our students, and we hear that from our families. And so that what I heard my APs talking about this morning in our meeting was the developmental age seems to be shifting younger and younger. And I think Amy was talking about that in that avenue as well. But what I do see with the hope is that we have parents in our community that are involved, that are engaged, and that are committed. And I think when you have involved parents, they know their child better. They know they're engaged with their school and partnering with them as we're called to. And they're committed to seeing it through, to working with the school, working for the benefit of their student together in a collaborative aspect. And I think that's a unique aspect of Catholic education that promotes that disciple that we're trying to be the stewards of. So I would say, bottom line is I'm hopeful, but I know that doesn't mean it's going to be easy.
So the world of the young person is changing. The world of the school is changing. Our teachers are changing. One personal story: my grandson has entered kindergarten this year.
Oh,
that's exciting.
That is exciting.
It's been over. Well, let's just say it's more than 6 decades since I was in kindergarten. And I thought we colored all day, and then we got to put our head down and take a nap. But I asked him all those questions. He looked at me like, he says, "No, I have to choose periodically between whether I take Spanish class or French class." I'm like, okay, that wasn't my kindergarten experience. So, yeah, they're getting all sorts of experiences younger and younger. They're going to test me as grandpa, I think, on his classes. So, okay, before our show's over today, I want to talk about you a little. Give people a more picture of you, because you're key leaders in the archdiocese, and you're men and women of leadership for the schools, but you're also a human being with a world beyond your work. So I want to ask you about interests outside of school. Amy, I know you love spending time with your grandkids. And Amy and Trevor, I know you played lacrosse in college and professionally. Now, the roles you have today keep you busy, so I don't know how much you got time to live outside your jobs. I know it's a challenge. So how do you spend time? Amy, how do you spend time outside of your work?
Well, you mentioned the grandkids, so that's where I spend a lot of my time, is really with my family. That's what I really like to do. I mean, I love to have everybody over, extended family as well, not just my adult children and their children, but my nieces and nephew and their children, my siblings. I'm all about hosting a good party at my house where we can cook out, or we can swim, we can play board games or cards. That's something I really enjoy doing. And of course, family vacation is always so important to me every year. The whole extended family, we travel together for a vacation. If just other things around the city, we have an amazing city. I love the city of Louisville, and certainly love all the distilleries, the distillery tours around the state of Kentucky. I love Nulu and all the festivals, all of the art scene here in the city. So I'm always enjoying those more when I have all the family with me.
Trying to keep a balanced life there. How about you, Trevor? You still play lacrosse?
I do not. No. Using my head as a battering ram is in my best interest moving forward. But I just to echo one thing that Amy said, I think while she does such an exceptional job prioritizing her family, she also creates an environment for us in the office that it feels like a family. And we're expected to have the pictures to share of our kids and the grandkids and the families, because another witness of her leadership of how we support our schools. But I do try to find time to exercise. My wife and I both like to run, do triathlons. We're
triathlons?
Yeah, we're in that crazy group as well.
Oh, wow.
Ironmans, all that stuff, marathons, ultra marathons. So we're a unique breed of crazy, I think. But spending time doing that, getting out and about. Our daughter loves to play outside, so she's definitely comes from us. And then, but I also try to think of like the Mary versus Martha, that ministry of the presence. And I think we have a gift with having a young daughter, is that we focus inward. We focus on one another when we're at home. Work will always call, and we'll always have to be responsible and be stewards of that as well. But we're better leaders when we're serving our homes and our families well at the same time. So
really good.
No doubt.
Well, listen, I want to thank both of you for being part of our show today. It's always fun to meet some of the new leaders. You've both been around a long time, but in your new leadership positions, which are so central to the health of our schools. So I thank you for today, but I mostly thank you for your commitment to Catholic education. You help us be really good. You help us to grow. You help us to be better every day, and I thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Brian.
And I thank our listeners for joining us for this edition of What's New in ArchLou. Tune in again next month as we together learn more about the Catholic Church in Central Kentucky.